a question from one of our guests, which was, do you know when the new season is going to be premiering yet?
Yeah.
I believe it is.
I think we're premiering in August of this year. So August, I think they want to give a little head start from all of the big fall shows that premiere. So a couple weeks before September.
Cool. All right. I asked that question. Yes.
I do. I was wondering, you didn't really, it wasn't clear to me, the beginning of the show, whether you pitched it before you had, like you have your notes, and I don't know what point the notes came in.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you pitched it or if you were writing it on spec, and what point Laura Dern came in, or if she was working on something and you were working on something and then it kind of came together. I was just kind of wondering the timeline and what you were intending initially, or how it came about.
I think these notes came before I pitched it. I think that basically I went in there and pitched the whole, I did sort of pitch like the idea of the bigger kind of arc of the show, and then also just what happens in the pilot. That basically we start and she's having her nervous breakdown, and then she goes away, and then she comes back, and it's kind of like, it's what happens once you return to all of the bridges you've burned, but like with this new, like, I'm gonna make it, and that was the show. But I wanted to get a sense of what she was like when she was at her lowest, and then when she, it's like, that her, like, the retreat and stuff. But and so I kind of for me, and this is something that's unusual, I wrote the entire season before we got picked up. So they picked up the pilot, and we were going to shoot the pilot, but before we shot the pilot, I had written all of the season, because I just had these experiences in TV where, they were like, we want to be in the Mike White business, and then they're like, but not that, and it's like, and I do think that if you try to do something original, and it's like, and for me, it's like being original, I want to be original to myself too. Like, I don't, I want to, like, keep, I don't know, it's like it's a process or something. And so like, I'm very used to every time I do something, people be like, we're so excited to be in business with you. And then you turn into something that is as good as anything you've done. But they're like, like for all the same reasons that they always are like that. And I don't know, you get used to it. I mean, it's frustrating. But this time I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is exactly what I'm doing, and you don't have to pick it up. It's okay. I had fun writing these scripts. I really like these scripts, and I hope that you do it. But if you don't do it, I would rather you just not do it than like put me through something where you're like trying to make me do something different. And
so you showed them all the scripts.
Oh yeah, I turned them all in. Yeah.
Did they pay you to write them, or you just like, I'm just writing?
They paid me to write the Writers Guild fee. And so I knew that they were liking it as it went along, because they were like, you keep going. But it was so helpful also because in pilots, actors are like, where's my character go? There's so many things, there are so many questions that I could just kind of like answer with having all the scripts, and also knowing when I started shooting, like, I don't know, like that, how this needs to have more depth here because we're going to keep going, like just as far as even choosing locations and all that, it was really beneficial. And it's a rare thing that you have that time, because usually it's all like in this crazy, we're shooting tomorrow, and or whatever.
So at what point did Laura Dern get involved?
She was involved in the pitch. Like, I'd said that she'd had this other idea, and she kept talking about like what writers would be good, because I wasn't looking to get back into TV, and at some point I was like, like I've always loved Laura as an actress, but like if I tried to sell her as a, to a, like, it's like the world of film, and I don't want to get too deep, it's like, it's just, it's like I did this movie Year of the Dog that I really loved and was really personal to me, and I felt like it was as, I don't know, I always loved that movie, And it was like one of those things that, it opens in 8 markets and you hope for, and then it's just like, and then it goes away and it's like, and I got like the best, as good a reviews of anything I've done. And you're just like, oh, you're greedy. You want more people to see it. And so it's at that point where you're going like, well, if I can do this in TV and, a place like HBO that can make a little bit of noise with this, it would be it would be preferable, I guess. And like I said, it's like, I think, I don't know, it's just depressing how people don't really go, it's like people like us don't go to movies enough or something, because like the world of those kinds of movies are just sort of, falling away.
But I mean, I actually read something that, an interview that was done with you where you said that it was that that it was disappointing to you that the audiences weren't showing up for that kind of more.
Yeah, I mean, not just for my movie. I think it's
in general.
Yeah, I mean, I do it too. Like I'm like, I'm like, oh well, I'll just see it on a plane, or I'll see it like, or some other way where you're just like, it's hard to get me to go do it, and because of that, I think that the people that do go see movies, like younger kids or whatever, those are the movies that get made for those people, and so then you can't go, oh. But I mean, don't they want to see a Transformers Year of the Dog double feature?
Yes, you. Go for it, and then
I think some people would in this audience would really like that double feature. Yeah.
Hi, Mike. My name's Lisa Steinmetz, and I'm a huge fan of your work. I really, one of my favorite writing pieces of all time was The Good Girl. Oh, cool. And I just wanted to know how you got the idea of the script, and you also were in it. You were hysterical. I just thought it was great. But the idea, how it came upon you, and just a little bit of your process in that particular movie.
Well, it was part like depression, and then also part. I read there was a book that I had just read called Love and Death in the American Novel by Leslie Fiedler. It's like this critical theory book, and it's a really amusing book. I don't know, maybe not to everybody. It's a kind of book
intentionally amusing, or
well, it's. I mean, I just think he's a very witty writer, and it's about the history of the American novel and the themes and tropes of all of those things. And it was just like, like I don't know, just like really set my mind on fire. And so I wanted to play, and I ended up writing. It was basically Madame Bovary. I mean, it is Madame Bovary, but in a crap Texan town. And I just wanted to do something that was like dealing with I just like the idea of a character who's like the put upon artist it's like, it's about depression. I wanted to do a movie that was about, it was like a prison movie, and all the different people dealing with this sort of existential crisis of they are going to be in prison for the rest of their lives, but the prison is life, and that it's this town and they can't get out, and what do you what are the illusions that feed you, and so that was kind of where it started, and it was I just love to do the idea. I was like, I'm going to do a romantic comedy, and I wanted to really do a romantic comedy where the person is a dead end, like like you love it, and it's like she's like, it's like, you're depressed, I'm depressed, and then it's like, so what now? And it's like, oh, you're really depressed, like backpedal, like, and so like I just like the idea of like how it's like in Madame Bovary, but like that the dream, the illusion of the perfect lover is like turns into a slight comic nightmare.
I love how you talk about getting excited about different things and getting inspired. And do you feel like in a way you look around and you kind of go, this isn't happening, this is something that I don't see, this is something that I don't get to see? Or does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I definitely feel like I mean, maybe it's just like, stubborn or something. It's that I especially with main characters, like Year of the Dog, I was talking a little bit about the main character of Enlightened, but in Year of the Dog, it's about this woman who's like, she lives with her dog. She's, 40 something, and she's, never really found the guy. And she's like, she has all these friends, and she's the one that listens. And she just goes from like friend to, and she's like, yeah, she's just like and it's like, I was just, the idea of writing a movie about like the library, she's not a librarian, but like the kind of like that person who's like, always remembers the gift, and then they don't really remember her, but like, and she's just kind of like the dog lady, and it's like, and having her find her voiceover, it just like that, it's like,
Who played the part?
Molly Shannon. And she was great. I mean, I don't know. She was great in it. No, she was. The idea I just, it's like, or Chuck and Buck, or it's like, even, it's like, I don't know, there's just something about finding, like, it's like, this is what everybody values, this is what everybody is like, this is what all the cool kids, this, like, like, it was like, when I first started out here, it was like Quentin Tarantino, and everybody was about, this kind of macho, like, movies that are about violence, and they're also about movies. Everything is about, this experience of movies, and like, it's very, this aesthetic of cool. And it was like, for very early on, I was just like, I am going to never do not because I can appreciate those movies or whatever, but for me, it's just like, I was like, I don't want to be cool in that sense. I want to, like, it's like, I want to write movies about, like, people.
Well,
You're
nuts.
Well, it's just
You're
like,
out of your mind.
I'm not, and it sounds like I'm, like whatever, highfalutin or whatever the fuck. It was just like, to me, it's like, I do think that it's important. I mean, as writers, that like, it's like, so much of it is about the marketplace, and that's just a reality. But I do think that, like, it's, it's like, it's incumbent upon us to, I don't know, like, to, it's like, not to make it what we do so, not to be self-important about it, but that there is something about, I don't know, being a little bit of the antidote.
I agree.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's like that, be the change you want to see in the world, it, when I'm listening to you talk, it's just really making me reflect on, there have been times in my life where I've really wanted to write about, times when I was depressed, and again going back to my divorce, and just one day, very quickly, but I was in my pajamas. It was like 3:00 in the afternoon. I was watching TV. The doorbell rings, and I forgot it was like the feng shui lady. I was gonna have come over to the house to like get my ex-husband's cooties out of the house. And I was like literally lying to her, going, "Oh, I'm a writer." That's why I'm wearing my pajamas at 3:00. But I just, every time I think of writing about that, it feels like it's so internal, and it's so inactive, and it's so depressing, obviously. And yet you find a way to make drama of it. Do you ever get super intimidated by who's going to want to watch, or how do I make this active enough to be a movie? You know what I'm asking? Or?
Yeah, well, and I do think that, like, it's, not every, it depends on how much I want to get paid, or if I want to get paid, or if I think that I can get this. It's like, I do think it's important for writers to be realistic in a sense, and that doesn't mean, like, it just means if you're going to make a movie called, about, like, Chuck and Buck, you make it for $500,000. You don't make it for,
What I'm talking about is just take the money out of it.
Oh, okay, take the money out.
Do you ever go, how am I going to tell a story about depressed people? Is that just going to be, is it going to kind of collapse under its own weight? Or how do you, I don't know.
No, I don't. For me, I don't know. I find that, like, it's those little moments that inspire me to do it. It's like, I don't, it's these little moves, to me, where I'm thinking of, like, in Enlightened, it's like some of those scenes in the pilot that very little happens, but, like, like when she comes in and is like, I really have an idea for a job, it's just like, and then her like going, well, you can't, I know, I've spoken to a lawyer and he says there's no way you could fire me. And it's like, and like, for me, like, it's like, I don't know, I get kind of giddy about, I don't know why, but like these little things, and, it's like, I don't know, it's like, so, it's like, I think that, not to get too Freudian, but like, I do think, Freud talks about dreams as being like, an unconscious fulfillment of, of a wish, of a repressed wish, and that movies basically for writers, if you're just expressing yourself, is similar, that you are fulfilling this wish, and that there's these little nubs that give this the kind of an electric power that draws you to do it, and that like. And that the more successful versions of those movies are ones where you're conscious of what the pleasure it is that you're getting, and that you are aware of it and own it, and like then build around it, and like, and I mean, I don't know, I'm totally going off point, but I do think that like writing, you have to really know yourself, you have to like be, and so like, so for me, I just think that like, I mean, to go back to your original question, is like, I think that, the excitement of life really comes down to, it depends on how, it's like some people need to be, I mean, it depends on how sensitive your frequency is. It's like if you're like, if you are Quentin Tarantino, like I'm sure sitting around like, me coming in and meeting all you, like for me, it's like I'm getting a lot of like, it's a lot to take in. I'm like in the cave and I've just come out into, so like all of these things are leaving a big impression on me, like, and so, but like for some people, yeah, we'd have to like, be shooting at each other to like, raise the roof. But it just depends on, what like, what feels like numinous and, alive, I guess.
I love it. Yes.
Hi, Mike. I love your show, and I'm so excited it got picked up for season 2.
Thank you.
Did you ever consider bringing in another writer for season 2? Does it get a little overwhelming to do it all yourself, to write all the scripts and field all the notes yourself? And the second part of that question is, what was the second part of that question? Shoot. Well, how about the first part of the question?
Okay, yeah, I can hit the first part. Like I've had experiences writing with a staff, and I'm just really bad at it. It's like I kind of like, I don't know, I'm such a writer by nature that like when there's people in the room, it's like, like I'm just not like, I can't, it's like I just, I have to be alone to write. It's very private, and I'm greedy, it's like people would write an episode of a show that I wrote, and I'm like, and I was like, this isn't me, and so it's not even that it's good or bad. It's just like I'm looking, like, again, I say, maybe it's just my narcissism or something, but like really, it's like, so what would happen is that I would have like a little class where we would be talking about the show, and then we would go under this illusion that everyone was going to go off and write their scripts. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I am going to have to write all of these scripts because that's why I'm here. Like, I'm not here because of my managerial prowess. It's not because like I'm so good at like, steering the ship or something. I'm here because I'm a writer, and that is where my strength is. And like all of these other parts that I do, producing or directing or acting or whatever, thank you. So is that I feel like it's just an extension of being able to own the story that I'm telling, to be able to participate more in that telling of the story. And so like, yeah, it is stressful. Like, and there were times when I was doing, and like, I'd be sitting, especially in a network thing where there'd be like the 3 studio executives and the 3 people from the other studio and the network executives, and they're all sitting and pitching out or like complaining about different things, and it's like, and I'm sitting on the other end, it's just me, and I'm like, it's just me, like, it's like I don't, who are these like, little elves that are gonna come in and do all this shit that you wanted me to do? And so yeah, it's, I mean, and it was a recipe for disaster. So like in this kind of situation, it's also why I wanted to write all these scripts ahead of time, is like, I've got to have these scripts done, and like we're shooting next week, and I just finished last week the last script, and it was like, and so, but
you can probably enjoy production more too if it's all written.
Well, I literally, I mean, it was the kind of thing where it was, yeah, it was a bad, it's not a way you can actually, like the way that I could only probably do this at HBO at this point, or somewhere where you have like 10 episodes or 8 episodes or whatever it is, because I just can't.
Yes.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for doing this. Been a fan since Chuck and Buck. Saw it back at Sundance way back, I don't know, 10 years ago. And your writing is so personal, and the characters you create seem to, you really connect with, and whether they're an extension of yourself or your own experience or just your humanity, it makes me wonder. How do you and just clearly you have a very fertile mind, so like you must get a lot of ideas. At what point do you decide this is something that reaches the limit of I want to turn this into a feature, or this is a character I want to live with, I want to create a TV show about? And can you talk a little bit practicum, like do you keep notebooks, do you jot notes, know?
No, yeah, I have lots of these, whatever. I'm very I had for Year the Dog, I had the Hollywood rite of passage where somebody sued me for, she said, stealing her idea. I still don't know what the idea was that was the movie or whatever. But I had to, it was one of those things that ultimately got thrown out by a judge or whatever. But I had to go through the whole, whatever they call it, when they findings or well, but it was before. It was where they were we had depositions or whatever. Yes. So and so they I had to bring all my notebooks in, and they stamped them, with a, and I was and it was so I mean, even to this day, because they're all lined up in the thing, and now each one of them has a stamp of some legal stamp on it, evidence A, B, C, D. But yes, so I have I have notebooks, and for me it's really it's as time goes on, it's more it's the thing that just keeps I mean, I'm sure every writer, it's the same thing. It was what I was just kind of talking about with the the fantasy of a repressed wish is those little nubs that you're ooh, this this will be really pleasurable for me to watch unfold, and a kind of character that I will get me kind of I get some weird I don't know, we it's we all get off in different ways, and for me it's something about Laura in the elevator with the people going I'm not crazy, I'm not it's I just go, this is something I I just keep, it sticks, and so that you, or Chuck and Buck, where it's where he goes, Chuck and Buck, suck and fuck, and you're oh, and I'm this is, this is gonna I don't know, there's something you just feel I'm gonna, I'm gonna, because it's such a Groundhog Day when you make something, you're especially if you do a freaking TV show, you're literally living, it's you first you write it, but then you have to reenact it, and then you have to sit with it in the editing room, and then you have to watch it and forever talk about it. It's something that it's some of these things never leave you, and I certainly had that experience where you're oh, this doesn't seem that hard, and then 2 years later you're fucking hell, get me out of this nightmare. I don't love this. I'm not into this. And I would just, and it's so, you learn from your mistakes, but.
It just feels for me, when when your writing is going well and you're connecting with it, I haven't actually found anything better than that. And when it's not going well, or I feel like I'm letting myself down, there's nothing worse. It just completely affects every part of my life. But I mean, when you're in it, it's just fantastic.
I have the opposite story, not the opposite, but an opposite story about a legal situation where I was on jury duty, and I was really put on a case, and I thought, and they handed out little notebooks, and I thought, oh well, I'll take notes and I'll turn it into a piece, or I'll turn it into something. And at the end, I was so ignorant that I didn't know that they confiscated your little notebook. And I felt so devastated because I felt like I was living in a communist country where I wasn't allowed to write my opinions because I had been writing, and that's what we do, we write, and I'd never have somebody say, now I'm taking what you write and it's being shredded. You know, it was really heavy. I mean, that has nothing to do with anything, but I just had to share it because it's sort of funny.
If I can tell stories about my horrible divorce, then you can certainly tell your story about jury duty.
Who else has a question?
Sorry to repeat this. I asked Mike during the break, but maybe you gals with your comedy for sitcoms and features as well can help answer. I have an idea that I'm writing as a screenplay that it's kind of the offbeat comedy, but right now in the outline and just starting to write it process, it feels like this really heavy drama, and I'm like, this is miserable. I hate living in this place. Is there kind of a way to get through that and or structure scenes, like how to get in and out of a scene? Because, you know, traditionally in comedy, it's like heightening the biggest joke at the end, move on. Like, but that's different because these are more heartfelt kind of
Just
stories.
feels like, I mean, just listening to Mike, just listening to him should answer that question, but you just have to let it be what it is. Because if you try and force it to be something else or go, it should be this, it should be that, you're not going to wind up with anything. And it feels like there's something that's kind of alive inside of you, and just go with that. It's really hard to trust that when you're kind of in the void and you're going, is anybody going to like that? But you couldn't really be listening to a better person to sort of encourage you to just commit to what is in your head. Well,
I have another little tiny thing about that, which is that sometimes when, you know how in real life, like sometimes when a person seems boring, quote unquote, either you seem boring or somebody else seems boring, it's because somehow you're staying on the surface. Because nobody's really boring when you really get to know them. And
but
so
you know my mother, right? Oh my God.
Almost nobody is boring when you really get to know them. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes you're staying on a surface level and you're not dropping down into something very specific and very you. I mean, that's what I'm getting, because he's spoken several times tonight about, you know, he notices when he gets excited about something, when he gets very, very excited, or
about a nub, or it makes him laugh, or he's picturing something and it makes him very, very interested. So you want to grab onto what that is, but you have to go deeper with comedy or drama. It doesn't really matter, because I don't think you'd really mind if it was turning into a drama. It sounds like it's turning into a boring drama. And boring always means to me, I'm not exploring something, and I'm not asking that question, what would really happen? I'm being general. You know, I love to give advice. And then they put a mic in my hand and they wonder why. You and then Kay.
Oh, hey, Mike, I wanted to ask about improv and if it was used at all as a tool on the set, or if it was exactly the written word. There's that great moment in the pilot when she's walking down the hall and she's about to get to him and she goes, "You knew!" And I was just curious if that was something that came out of behavior or if that was the written word.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not really an improv writer. I mean, in the sense that I feel like it's not like I encourage the actors to like mess it up. I don't, I'm not like Mamet or whatever, where it's like each ellipses needs to be in its proper place for the meaning to be, I feel like, but beyond that, like, I worked on this show Freaks and Geeks with Judd Apatow, who's a very, successful producer and has done a lot of movies, and all of his movies really rely on improv. In fact, the script is really just like, kind of like, it's a semblance of what will it be, and everyone reads it accordingly. And I worked with him and I could not take it. I was just like, it's your version of the shredding of the Notebook or something, where I'm just like, I would go and try to write, because like each time when I sit down, it's like, it's it's not a realistic goal, but the goal is to write the perfect script and to like have every little thing be perfectly there, and then to be like, okay, let's pitch on it. And it's just like, no, we're not pitching on this. Like, I don't want you to pitch on this. Like, it's like, maybe that makes the best movie, but like, that's not what I'm here to do. Whatever. I'm a writer, like, so it's just everybody, it's like, it doesn't mean I don't enjoy those movies or whatever, but it's just like, that's just who I am. So.
Was there another part of the question?
No, I think you answered it wonderfully, Mike White. Thank you.
Oh, there was another person right around here.
Oh, it was just I was wondering if you could go back a little bit to when you were talking about being the lone voice against network execs and God knows whoever else. I'm really curious about how you feel those notes, because you said your pilot ended up on screen pretty much what it was on the page.
Right.
And is that the case with most of the episodes? And how the heck do you handle all that stuff coming at you and get what's on the page onto the screen?
Right. Well, HBO was much less they had very few notes through the course of the season. So it was not a big deal with them. I mean, with other places, it's hard, and I've had the experience where I've really messed up what I was trying to do, because I just hate the note process. And so what happens is that I go, oh, well, this is what they don't like, and I don't want to have that note again. So how do I like make this palatable to me, but like kind of like already like dodge the note before it comes. And so then you start internalizing their wants into your thing, and then you can start getting really sidetracked from what you're trying to do. And I've definitely failed many times.
Well, it's attrition too, because you set out to do something, and then you get the really bad note, so you're like, I'll take this note. This one isn't so bad, and then eventually you're doing something that's completely not what you wanted to do. But it's like the Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's like if you placate it, it's not like it's going to be the last one. It's going to keep coming and coming and coming. And, it really is a challenge. And it's actually, I have been working in network television in the last few years, probably more than you have, but it's horrible. It used to really be much more. There used to be a lot more respect for the writer-producer. And there really isn't anymore. And you get a lot of what Mike is talking about, where people are not only giving you notes, but they're insistent, and they're sure that they know what people want. I gain a lot of weight. That's how I handle it. I just eat with two different hands at the same time.
That is so wise.
That's how I basically
that is
how
so
I handle
wise.
it. And I get very angry and.
Do you feel like, do you ever work with like a line producer who kind of has your back in certain ways, or is that a relationship that's worked for you in terms of protection or just helpfulness?
I've not really. I feel like in TV they're really, what I find amazing is like, it doesn't matter if it's the head of the network or just literally like the most junior person in the thing, they feel totally empowered to call you up and tell you their thoughts. And I'm like, is this?
Who are you?
What does this mean? Okay, you have whatever. So I have like a very thin freaking veneer of like happy, sweet, or whatever I am, and to like full on, and as I get older, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner to where it's like I go completely apeshit over nothing. They're like, it's just like, there's some emotion, man. What? Like, there's not, it's like, wait, say it exactly. What are you saying? And they're like, we just type, and then, it's like a total, I feel like I feel badly for the people who have to.
That's a scene. The scene is the people going, you call him today.
Yeah,
no, call him. I'm scared of him.
Like, it's really coming from a place where I really want to build a consensus. It's not because I don't care about what people think. I really do, and I almost care too much. So like if they go, oh, no, no, it's like, are you kidding? Like it's like this frustration. It's like me when I was like 5 years old, not being able to communicate something I want to communicate, and just getting red in the face and being like, oh, don't you understand me? You know what I mean? And so it's just like, and so yeah. But I mean, in a way, I do think I really believe, because I've talked to other I think people who can deflect that kind of thing are always happier and better off because they can do it. The people that are like too receptive and too collaborative in that particular way, I think it's a detriment to to them, because in the end these people they will not blame themselves if the show doesn't work. They will blame you, and they don't have to stand behind the show the way that you have to. And in the end, it's I don't know. I think it's better to be I don't know. It's the biggest trick of our business, I think, to how to navigate being somebody that people like to work with and also getting your way, right?
Getting the money to do what you want to do.
I mean, not to be obvious, but there is an element, I think I said this before, where everything that you're exploring in Enlightened is partly, on some level, about, yearning to find like a truth to stand in, so that you're not buffeted by other people's, you know what I mean? So that you stand in your truth and you're not buffeted by what other people think. And I just know for myself, just to be candid, I do think that that's worth its weight in gold. Not to be too aware even, or care too much about what other people think of one's output. I mean, and I almost feel like you're exploring it for her, but you're, potentially exploring it for you.
So when you're developing something, like I'm assuming you have, writer friends and other creative friends, do you ever tell them what you're working on or give them details of it, or you just are like kind of doing your own thing in your head?
That's a good question.
I feel like I don't know. I don't like to give my scripts to other people, except for the people that will pull the levers. Like, I don't want a lot of input. I've been through that process where I've given a script to like a friend, and it's too much to ask from any person. It's like saying, like, it's like, here's my baby. Do you love my baby? It's like, I love your baby. Okay, well, they didn't love the baby. It's like they didn't, it's like there's nothing that they can say or do that, other than just pure unadulterated enthusiasm and praise. And I don't write it for I feel like it's like I want to be my own worst critic. I want to do it for myself. And I feel like that's just like, I'm just all in, it's like, that's just like how I feel like that's just my survival mechanism. Everybody has something different, but for me, it's like, I just don't want to I just want the least amount of having to, and it's like, in the end, then you have to live or die on what's on the page, and, hopefully, you made it good and whatever. But I don't really want, it's like, I went to the Sundance Labs, and it's like, you have all of these young writers who not always young, but usually, and they are, giving you their scripts, and then they have like 12, old pros, and they're like, well, if I was rewriting a script, I'd do this, and and it's just like, and by the end, these people are like spun like every which way. They have no, it's like they're coming at it. Everybody's coming at it from 100 different, directions, and it's just like, and I'm just sitting there going, the way to get out, it's like, first, don't listen to these people, but secondly, like, and don't listen to me, although I do have some thoughts, and then thirdly, like, it's like, you should have a, you should have a retort for every, it's like, I feel like it's like, if someone's just like, oh yeah, and, it's like, well, then you have failed. It's like if you let, it's like for me, like this is my experience is when I first got out here, I wrote a script that was accepted to the Sundance Labs, and it was the first script I'd ever written. I didn't really know what I was doing, but there was some stuff in it that people thought was, like well observed or whatever. And for, literally 10 years. I mean, I moved on to other things, but at least for like a year solely, and then 10 years since, I was getting notes and I'm rewriting that script for like, in a million different directions. And I was just like, I'm never doing this again. Like I don't ever want to take a lunch about my fucking script again. I don't want to ever I hated that process. I hated how a script is just a way for everyone to kind of like be a writer, like I'm a writer and this is what I want to do, or whatever it was. And I was just like, I need to, and it made my style what it is, because I just wanted to write stuff that was like, like it basically like trying to like close the gate so that no one could get in, and so that everything in there, I was like, well, the reason that's in there is this is because, and this is a payoff, and this is and you can't have it, and it's like I just was a way to deflect that thing. So like it's like either you make the movie, that's fine, or you don't make the movie, but I don't want your fucking ideas. It's just like but
I gotta say, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding, because if you take like let's just take the pilot of Enlightened, but it's the same with everything of yours that I've seen, like Chuck and Buck and the rest of the season of Enlightened. But let's just take the pilot. If you take out one scene, or you take out one moment, everything unravels.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but the truth is, like, my feeling is, like, I'm not writing The Usual Suspects. I'm not writing an Agatha Christie. It's like there's different things that you're like, where you have to, like, it's like, like where you are held to your feet are held to a different kind of fire as whether something is blown. If you're just, if you're writing like a coming of age, like character based thing, it has its own different, it has a different rubric from how it's being judged. But even there, like it's like, I'm not taking on the most ambitious type of, like it's not, Death on the Nile or whatever the fuck, but it's its own thing. And I just feel like, it's really about being, for me, whether I think that the scripts that have gotten made and have kind of gotten out there and kind of been the thing that I've wanted them to be are things that like, we're fully born when I was conceiving them, and that I was conscious of all my decisions and all of the turns and how each character works into the main, it's like, some dramaturgical lessons that I think are really true, and that like, I enjoy like multi-character, things, but I don't write them because I know that those things are much more, it's like it's just easier stuff to develop. Like maybe we need more of this character. Da, da, da. It's like, but if you have a central character and everything is like an offshoot of that person's journey to some, ultimate end, you have a stronger. I don't know. You have I don't know. It's its own formula, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think it is a formula. Yes.
It's a formula that's uncrackable, and that's what.
Admittedly, I'm pretty late to the Freaks and Geeks train, but I love it. I marathoned it a couple weeks ago, and Kim Kelly's my friend. It was like my favorite episode.
Oh, cool.
So, so how is writing for Enlightened different from Freaks and Geeks?
Well, in Freaks and Geeks, I was I was just a member of the staff, so it was more. It was honestly, it was a fun experience. But it's also, I'm not a good employee.
It sounds like
That sums it up.
Yeah.
That sums it up beautifully. There was